Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of Journey Becoming Head Coach. As always, I'm your host Jeff Freeman, and today we're going over protections. I'm a big offensive line guy. That's where I was brought up, playing through high school, even junior high flag football. When I started playing in 5th grade, playing flag football. We're going to talk about 8, 7, 6, half, full, and man. We're going to just kind of talk of the prevalences of both and all of these different types of protections and what the kind of goals are and things of that nature and kind of how the game has evolved. Again, thank you all for everyone that's been, liking, supporting, all that stuff. That's all I ask is that if you find something interesting, share it. And if you don't, leave some comments, or if you want me to dive a little bit deeper, please let me know. So, when it comes to protections, there's usually, you're trying to do some kind of slide, or a man, or a half slide with a man. But in all actuality, when it comes to protections, it's to prevent any kind of running through the A or B gaps. Because honestly, what's the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. So if you got a defense that's bringing pressure through the A and the B gaps, that's the goal, is to prevent any kind of pressure through that inside 4 gaps, force everything to the outside, let the quarterback be able to step up and make his throws. So that's the ultimate goal when it comes to that, and then avoid any unfavorable matchups of strength and or athleticism. So if you got some really stud linebackers or defensive linemen, you're going to slide or you're going to give help to that side to prevent any kind of unfavorable matchups. And as the game has evolved from NFL all the way down to high school, the goal is now to get, minimum 3 receivers, and if not, we want to get 5 receivers out on the route. When you're watching some of the Chief games, they're trying to get 5 wide receivers out at all times. You watch some of these high school games, they're trying to get 5 receivers out at any point in time. Now, the positive for the offense is like, okay, yeah, you got 5 options to pick from. Now, usually, obviously, there's some different scheme. They're attacking cover 2. Maybe they're reading. They're doing some kind of, maybe they're throwing an RPO in there. But as someone who's coached offense and defense, I look at the defensive side and I say, okay, in reality, you got 5 guys that you're trying to protect your quarterback with. And then depending on who you try to keep in, if you're sending 5 people in a route, more often 4, and then this guy's kind of a check, check, and go kind of thing. He's the check down guy. So at best, you have 6 guys that are protecting. So I now know that these 5 are for sure protecting, and then you've maybe got him. If you got a tight end, there's your 6-man protections. If you're going to keep the tight end in. Or it's a 6-man with the tailback, and you're running the H out, or your tight end out. Maybe it's a 7-man protection, where you're keeping these guys in and you got your running back. Or, in some instances, nowadays you end up with, 8-man protections. But I don't see, maybe some of you, depending on where you're at, maybe some of you are seeing that. And that could be anything from something like this, old 2-back look, or maybe you got a double tight look, something like that. And then you actually have a full 8-man protection because you're trying to take a deep shot and you need time to get there. Personally, what I'm seeing is I'm seeing more half slide, full slide. That's pretty much what I see a majority of, and a mixture of man. I don't see a lot of 7 or 8-man protections anymore because everyone's trying to get at least 3 receivers out there at any point, if not more. So that's kind of what I'm seeing personally as we move forward and as things are going. I'll bring things over here. So when it comes to half slide, that's kind of what we'll go over first. When it comes to half slide protections and what they're trying to do. Now, usually, depending on the team, depending on what they're trying to do, they're going to slide one of 2 ways. They're either going to slide towards the will or the weak side, or a lot of teams now, what I'm seeing is they're sliding towards the field. So if they're on a boundary, they're going to slide to the field side. That's what I've seen a lot of teams starting to do, is they'll slide to the field more often than not. And I'm saying like 80, 90% of the time they'll slide to the field. Sometimes they'll slide to the boundary, but more often than not they're going to slide that way. So when you get a half slide, and let's just say their focus is on the will backer. They find that will, that's where they're going to slide to. And you'll slide out, and normally they'll slide 3. Then, if he's out on a route, which he probably is to some degree, some way, shape, or form, we'll kind of draw that little basic cover 2 route for the most part. So if that's their end game, Sorry, turn off my phone there, so that way it doesn't go off anymore. So if that's what they're trying to do, then you have these 4 with these 2. Now this is not the best scenario for your tailback. You probably want them to that side to help out. But in any case, manned up, and then your tailback checks obviously inside to out. That's your very basic half slide. If the Mike comes and the Sam comes, then obviously it's take first threat. Now, and that's coming from depth. As an offensive line guy, again, what were we always taught? Don't get beat inside, take first threat. So let's just say the Mike walks up. Well, now that just turns into a simple call where the guard will take the Mike, he'll take the tackle, and then he's got the end or the Sam, depending on who's coming. So, and if they both come, again, he takes first threat. So now if he comes off hard, and then now the quarterback knows he's got to hit his hot route because they sent both. So he's got to hit the hot route. So that's kind of the idea there, or the first open read when it comes to that. So that's your basics of half slide, is they're going to slide towards the will, and then they're going to play man on the backside. Now, you might be saying, okay, well, that's great against a 4-man front. Well, what does a 3 front look like? Same premise. They're just going to slide to the weak side. They're just going to slide to the weak side. So again, you have this weak side slide, and this is where maybe you got a little bit of that RPO read game out of your quarterback. Because depending on what this guy's doing, if he's coming, he knows he's got the E. But again, so they got the basic slide protection. And again, he can kind of sit and help with the nose. But for, again, now you have 3 against these 2, because you have these 3, focus on these 3. Quarterback's going to read this backer, most likely. Again, he could kick him out, and he could kick him out. But again, it's whoever comes in their gap. So if he drops and he goes in that gap, he's got him. If he sits down inside and this will doesn't come, then he's taking on the tackle. The will comes and the nose comes. Again, there might be a little bit of help depending on the slanting, but for the most part, that's your basic slide. He's looking for the Mike. He's got the tackle. And again, inside to out. So he's checking inside, checking outside, and then probably going on some kind of hot route, or maybe he's staying inside depending on their protection. So again, all dependent on protection, all dependent on who's coming and who's not. So again, if that Mike walks up, guard would take him, tackle would go there. So again, they can play games on that front, but that's your basics of a half slide with a man on the other side. So, pretty simple stuff, right? Okay, now, when you want to go to a full slide, again, preferably your whole line is now sliding, and your back is going away from the slide protection. When might you do this? Again, all dependent upon what they have on this side. If you feel like you can slide, you don't need to play man, then you can do that. It's just something to play games and to give you some advantages. Say, for example, you don't really want to risk, these guys don't bring backers very often. Then you can play full slide. That's kind of my preference. If they don't bring backers very often, then I would just rather full slide it and have my tailback kick out the last guy on the line of scrimmage, to be brutally honest. Or if these ends aren't very good, then I'll full slide it. Because if these ends aren't very good, my back can take them, fine, we're good. So, again, more often than not, usually what our team's going to do, they're going to slide away from the will. More often than not, they're going to slide to the weak side. They're going to slide to the weak side. And then, again, if it's field, they might slide to the field. Again, it all depends on what their passing concepts are built around. So, if this is full slide, slide to your gap, 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 tailback, kick out last man. So, it makes it really easy for the offensive line. It's like, okay, you have the gap to your side. Helps with any kind of stunts. If he wants to stunt this way, that's fine. He passes them off, and it's just a simple zone concept. And if a guy walks up, again, into your gap, the offensive line has the ability to communicate with with a lot of ease, and being able to really say, all right, well, hey, I got him. If he walks up, center's like, I got Mike. He knows he's manned up. And then, again, now on this front side, If this Sam backer decides to come, he becomes the quarterback read. Pretty simple. And again, the tailback has the same assignment, take first threat. If they bring both these guys, again, that's a hot read depending on what this, if this Will walks up and they're going to bring both, there's a hot read for your quarterback. So when it comes to protections, things are built in to help you. But again, at the same time, defensively, you can get, and we'll cover this on the next one, you can get very creative because you know that they only have 5 more often than not now when they're trying to send 4 or 5 guys into the passing play, down the field. So full slide, everybody goes towards their gap. They have whatever comes in that gap. So makes it really easy, makes it a really easy assignment. Now again, if you got that H out there, now that might hold off the Sam backer a little bit because again, if you widen him out, the Sam's got to widen. And depending on how you line them up, again, if your H is off the line, Z's on the line, if you're in just a basic spread formation, Sam's going to walk out. Now, of course, easy tell, if they're in cover 2. Again, if they don't rotate down, that can help you because if they don't rotate down, if he comes, he's either faking or you got a nice, easy route here because that safety didn't rotate fast enough. So you're going to have a pretty easy hot route between you and your tight end or your H, depending on what you call your guys, depending on what terminology is. So again, full slide kind of honestly depends on what your passing scheme is and what your line is like and who you're playing. Again, I try to have a little bit of everything. Try to have a little bit of half slide, a little bit of full slide, and teach a little bit of man. Man's really good for play action. If you want to run some play action, especially at an ISO or some inside zone, you can run a man scheme and a man blocking scheme and block the inside 5 with the mic. So again, that makes it really easy for it's like, oh, hey, it looks like inside zone. Nope, it's play action, ride, take it, dump it off. Maybe a little pop pass, a little ISO pass, a little something like that. So again, it allows you to play some games if you're able to do all 3. Plus, if you're able to do all 3, you can kind of match whatever the defense wants to do. If they don't have really good defensive ends, you can slide all day, let your tailback take that last end every time, keep your quarterback's backside saved, and just let him know that, hey, you got the 2 outside backers. Because our line is taking the front 4 and the mic. Most likely. Okay, that's usually how it kind of predicates, is usually that line is when it's a full slide, depending on what front they're in. So if they're in this front, it'd be full slide in the mic. You could make the argument it'd be the full slide in the Sam, but I'd rather have my line taken on a mic and then have my quarterback reading the Sam backer on this, and if he's coming up and that end pinches, he knows he's got a route. I'd rather teach it that way to make it easy, so my line's easy. My quarterback always knows when it's full slide, he's got the outside backer to his front side. He doesn't have to worry about the mic. The mic is taken by the line. Now, of course, that could set up some little interesting things when you have any kind of X stunts between your Sam and your mic. You can play games like that. Again, we'll cover that on the next presentation. But right now I'm trying to focus mainly on offense. So now you're going to say, okay, well, what about the 3-man front again? What about that 3-4 look? What about the odd front? What about the odd front, Jeff? What would you do against that? Okay, odd front. Again, same kind of premise. You now have, again, that rover or weak side backer. He's going to have to be spread out because you have a slot. You got your Will, you got your Mike, and again, same thing. Now you can make that premise of, okay, against an odd man front, they have the inside 3 and the play side 2. So you can make, because usually, again, especially in high school, maybe not so much in college or the NFL, a lot of the times these guys are going to pinch. A lot of the times they're going to pinch. So that tackle's going to take him, or that guard's going to take him. Tackle's kicking out to help with any kind of block on that front. Center's coming out, guard's coming down, tackle's coming down. So in this regard now, your tailback is looking for the Will and the rover. And if you really kind of take this into account, your tackle is looking for the Sam. The Sam doesn't come, he can help back inside. So these 5 are looking for these 5 to kind of really kind of help everything out. And if you really kind of want to take a look, these 3 are really accounting for these 3 for the most part. Because if that Mike tries to play games and come down, you know that nose is going to slide or pinch this way. That helps. If he's going to try and pinch around and kind of do some kind of little loop, that's fine. Again, that's taken up. And if he comes around the other side, again, it's taken up by the slide protection. And if he comes off the edge and he pinches around and swings around, they're going to end up picking that up. Now, if they want to bring 6, again, if he's accountable for that front side backer, he knows, he sees him coming, he's got the route right here that he wants. He's got that hot route no matter what it is. Whether it's a slant, whether it's an out, whether it's a seam, whether it's a corner, whether it's a post, whether it's a, whatever route you want to call it, even if it's a hitch, if he sees that sandbacker come hard off the edge, he knows he has that hot route, especially in this look, especially in a cover 2 look, depending on what the safety does. If the safety's late, he has it. If the safety gets down early, now you already know it's going to be more of a cover 3 look. So obviously, depending on what play you have run, you know what you have, depending on what kind of passing concepts you've thrown in the back end. So you have those reads. So you have the 5 picked up. Kind of the goal there. Now, you can make the argument, that's how I've seen it taught. I tend to do it kind of a little bit differently. I would rather these 5 take care of these 5, so that way we're always covered. Now, you're sliding, so you kind of, again, if he's coming off the edge, you don't want him to just come off free, but at the same time, I'd rather have these 5 take care of these 5. So if he slides, and again, if he doesn't come, now we're helping backside. We have all these 5 picked up. These 5 have these 5, and we're covered. Tailback has backside rover. Quarterback's responsible for this front side backer. So again, yeah, he's sliding, but he's looking for this guy and this guy. That's it. That's how I tend to teach it. I've seen people talk about, yeah, you slide, he's got first threat, which is usually going to be this backer. Well, that's just confusing to me, so I'll teach my guys, hey, look, slide, and then tackle if you get nothing. If this tackle doesn't go with you, then you sit and you help. You're looking for that Mike. Is he going to try and come off the edge? If the Mike tries to come off the edge, you know you're picking him up. That way I got 5 on 5. And again, quarterback's responsible for the front side sandbacker for that read. Tailback's responsible for the backside linebacker. And again, if the backside linebacker doesn't go, check and then release. And if he does come, perfect, great. Again, you still have this read as well. So the nice thing is for the quarterback is he has 2 really easy reads, especially if they're in some kind of cover 2 look. Because if these guys walk up hard, and they're going to try and run a pinch and they're going to crash those 2 guys off the edge, that's a long run for those 2 safeties if they don't walk down now. And if it's some kind of man look, if they don't walk down now, that's a really easy throw to my H or my E and just, hey, get the ball and go. And depending on if we're in the middle of the field, I want my quarterback to throw to my more athletic slot. If we're on a sideline, if we're on a boundary, then I want him to throw to the wide side first if he can help it. If not, then obviously go to the boundary. But obviously we want our athletes in space. So if you have the ability to throw to an athlete, if this is, okay, let's say this is, this is the boundary over here, I prefer him to throw here because now we got a lot of space to work with. So depending on what we're doing, now of course that means we're sliding in the boundary, which if they got some stud linebackers, we might slide into the boundary. So that's one little piece there. Now, so that's full slide. Some people will try to attack that outside backer. Me, I'm going to teach my guys to take the inside 5. That's just my preference. I've seen people teach it both ways, where they say, okay, you 5 are responsible for the 3 down linemen, the Mike, and the strong side backer. Tailback's going to take the weak side backer and the outside backer. I've seen it, I've taught it, I've done it, it works, it can work. I just prefer, in my opinion, I'd rather have my inside 5 take care of their inside 5 when they're in an odd man front. That's my preference, that's what I like. Of course, again, I teach both. It's not a big deal. And I don't teach them concurrently, I teach them when we need them. If I got players that can handle it, we handle it. If I don't, I don't. If I have a really athletic tackle, if this is a really athletic offensive line, then sure, we'll full slide and I'll tell my back, hey, you got Will the rover. And now my quarterback knows he doesn't even have to worry about this backer because the tackle's going to drop and kick with him and then help back if he sinks. So he can still read him, but he doesn't have to worry about reading him because these 5 now are assigned these 5. So again, all depends on your preference, all depends on what kind of line you have. Now, last but not least, you have your man-to-man. Honestly, that's what I got brought up on. That's what I was very first taught, and it's a very, very simple style, and it's effective, but it's very simple. So, again, just starting with the really easy, 4-man front, and we'll show you the 3-man front. More often than not, is what I would say, is that most times everyone's trying to locate the mic when it comes to your man style of 4-man front. So they're going to identify the mic. And then usually that means there's some kind of double team. So the center will identify the mic. We'll just say he's 55, whatever. So they might say Luke Big. So all that means is he's going to help with the nose to the left. And these two have these two, tackles man, or guards man, tackles man, tackles man. And then usually tailback's going to help backside, depending. And then, again, quarterback's responsible for that front side backer. Very simple. These 5 block the 4-down lineman and the mic. I mean, it doesn't get much simpler than that. So, and I mean, depending on what you see, if they give you like a double 1 look, then it's kind of up to the center at that point. It's these 3 have these 3, so they can call some combos. I would tend to call, when I played center, I would tend to call to whoever I knew, whoever was the stronger defensive tackle, that's who I'd call it to. So if this was the stronger guy, I'd call Luke. If he was the stronger, I'd call to the right. Now, of course, you do run into that issue, and we had it a couple times where I even called Luke as a player, and then that mic is coming right through here, and that nose is slanting, or the opposite would occur. He slants here, and the mic's coming to the outside. Well, yeah, I would step down hard there, and then I would have to either basically just do a quick loop around, or I would try to bump him off. It would all kind of depend on what would happen, but very rarely did we get that double 1 look when we were running man. If we got double 1s, we would just kind of, usually we already knew we were going to get double 1s and we go to slide. But if you end up getting that look and you're in man, you got to leave it up to your center, and you got to trust your center to make the right call. And again, depending on the athleticism of your line, you can either try to pass off, or if your center's athletic enough to step and then either bucket step or do a little skip pull back out to get in front of that mic, you can do that as well. So, all right, last but certainly not least, the 3-man front. That, to be quite honest with you, I mean, in our league, we don't see very much of. We see more 4-4 look. So, we do see a lot of 4-4 and 4-3 looks. So I don't see a lot of the 3-man fronts, but I like to teach 3-man fronts. I like to coach with 3-man fronts. I feel like 3-man fronts give you a lot of help, especially at the high school level. But that's, again, topic for another story. All right, so playing man. Same idea, for at least how I've been taught it and how I go through it. These 5, you're trying to go to the mic. Obviously, you're going to set to the mic, but now it's these 5 guarding the inside 5. So it's very similar to the slide, except for with man, obviously your tackles are manned up, and now your center and your 2 guards, basically you have that. So you have to guard the triangle. So now, again, what I used to do, and what would happen is if you called, whatever we called, the back would go away from the call. So previously when I called Luke Big, technically that means the tailback would go to the right, and the quarterback would be responsible there. Now, of course, you don't necessarily want to do that because your quarterback, you don't want him responsible for a backside guy where you can't see him. So, again, all dependent on what kind of guys you have and what you can do, but more often than not, again, I would call, we would set to the mic, so we'd have a double team here to the mic, and then this guard would be watching the will. Now, if the will never shows, he would help to the inside, especially if that mic decides to blitz. Or, what we would also teach is, okay, you check the will, he's not coming, but you see the rover delayed blitz, can you drop off and go help? Because again, your tailback, if you call Ray Big, he's now going to be responsible for the will, the outside backer on that front. So again, you have these 5 to guard these 5. If these 2 don't go, you can either help or try to shift outside to the outside backer. But usually, I would just teach these guys, hey, look, block the inside 5, Ray Big, help, really prevent any pressure coming up inside, and just make sure our quarterback can step up. So I never really tried to play games with our guards jumping out to help with outside backers. I left that up to our tailbacks and left that up to our quarterback to read front side. So that's just a little bit on protections. And again, the 8-man stuff, if you like 8-man, I mean, I've seen it, and to be quite honest with you, where I've seen it the most, or where I have seen it, is honestly just play action bootleg, like out of wing T guys for the most part. So, like if I see, something like that, and then you got your one receiver, out here, like I've seen 8-man protections where everyone's, faking any kind of motion. They do some kind of fake motion this way. Then all I've ever really seen is everyone's kind of going this way. He's blocking, or maybe he's going out and they're bringing this backside drag, and everyone else is just blocking as he gets out to throw. I mean, I've seen that kind of 8-man protection, but that's kind of the most I've seen probably in a long time. I don't see a lot of just drop back 8-man, 2 routes and go. So that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. That doesn't mean it's not out there. I just haven't seen that in years. I've seen some 7, I've seen some 6, but primarily I see 5 and 6-man protections, half slide, full slide, and some man. So that's what I've seen. So those are the protections between your half slide, full slide, and your man. Again, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to share it, comment below, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thank you for all the support and love. I hope you all have a great day. Be great, push limits, and hold the line.